Hi friend, welcome to my series on self-compassion. So what is self-compassion? So for so many of us, it's easier to be kind and comforting and use words of solace towards someone else than it is towards ourselves, where we may be more critical and judgmental towards ourselves. And so self-compassion is bringing the same kindness that we would extend to someone else towards ourselves. Hello friend, I'm continuing talking about self-compassion, which I covered in my last reel. In this one, I want to talk about the three components of self-compassion as outlined by researcher Kristin Neff, who has studied self-compassion in a evidence-based way. So according to Kristin Neff, there are three components of self-compassion. The first is kindness towards oneself, which is what I covered in the last reel. The second is common humanity, and that is knowing that we are not alone in whatever our suffering is, because part of being human is experiencing pain. And finally, the third component is mindfulness, and that is being present with whatever it is that we are going through. So in my next reel, I'm going to talk about the difference between self-pity and self-compassion. So if you're interested, follow me so that you don't miss it. Hello friend, this is part 3 of 5 on self-compassion. Today I want to talk to you about the difference between self-pity and self-compassion. So when something happens to us that leaves us feeling emotionally wounded, we often start with self-pity. We feel sorry for ourselves, we complain to other people. What we're looking for is validation from others. And we can bring that same validation to ourselves by inviting self-compassion into how we approach ourselves. And we do this by using those things I had talked about in previous reels: kindness, common humanity, and finally mindfulness. And mindfulness is what I want to talk about here, because it's so important to be able to hold space for what we are feeling without trying to bypass it or stay in self-pity. So we do that by just knowing that what we are dealing with is hard, by saying that this will pass, and using some somatic practices, which I will address in my next reel, to help us move through it. Hello friend, this is part 4 of 5 on self-compassion. And today I'm going to share with you a simple practice that you can use to bring more compassion to those times when you're facing a difficult or challenging situation. The easiest way to do that is to place one hand on your heart, and if you like, you can place another hand on top of it, applying just a little bit of pressure so you can feel your presence in your own life. And as you do this, feeling your breath against your hand, saying some words of comfort to yourself, the same kind of words that you would say to someone else. What is it that you would want to hear from someone else? And as you say that, just being open to receiving that. And what we're trying to do is be mindful of what you're dealing with without trying to bypass it or go into self-pity. And when we acknowledge that something is hard, as we're saying these things to ourselves, they tend to pass much quicker than if we're trying to resist it or stay with it by complaining about it. In my next video, I'm going to talk to you about why self-compassion is absolutely critical to healing. Hi there, this is number 5 and the final in my series on self-compassion. And today I want to share with you why it is absolutely critical for us to have self-compassion practices in place as we go through our healing journey. In order to heal something, we have to acknowledge that it happened. And the moment we start doing that, it stirs up our system and can bring up a lot of things that can show up as shame, blame, guilt, lack of forgiveness towards ourselves or others, and can be very dysregulating and also hijack us from the healing that we are trying to achieve. If we have self-compassion practices in place at that time, then the moment we start noticing a shift happening, we can bring those practices to bring us to feeling kindness and comfort and solace towards ourselves, which then keeps us grounded and centered into what we are trying to do, and that is to heal.